special guest today. We have James McQuiggan here to talk everything cybersecurity awareness. He is an advocate with KnowBe4, and we're going to dive into a lot of topics through James's vast experience, and also, we're going to probably hear a dad joke or two, and of course, Network Buzz theme. We're going to see what's in our glass. So, James, thanks so much for joining. This is great. I really appreciate you jumping on with us here.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine, Mike. I'm excited to be here. Looking forward to chatting with you and sharing some good tips. And yeah, as you said, maybe a couple dad jokes along the way too.
Oh yeah, and I know the brand. So we'll get to that. But yeah, just to get us kick-started here in true Network Buzz fashion, what do you got in your glass there, James?
What do I have in my glass? So, right now, I've kind of had to take a step back and do a little lifestyle shift, and I'm kind of trying to cut out my carbs. So that means, cutting back on the beer. And I know there's low calorie beer and all that, but actually,
it's not the same. They try to say that. Go ahead.
But what's in my glass on a regular basis is one of my favorite spirits, and that, of course, is whiskey. And one of my favorites is the single barrel Four Roses, or Four Roses single barrel.
You're presenting that so well. It's not sponsored by Four Roses today, I promise.
No, we're certainly not. KnowBe4 Roses. No, wait, no, hang on. That's something.
There we go. There we go.
But Four Roses is one of my favorite bourbons. It's got a lot of flavor, and the great thing about bourbon is there's no sugar. Well, there's no carbs, and the calories are somewhat low, depending on how much you pour. So, Four Roses single barrel, but that's kind of my go-to. That's what I'm having on a regular basis. But I brought a special one along for you here today, Mike. And this is one of my true favorites. It's a Scotch. It's a Speyside. It's for Balveni's 21-year-old Portwood. So it's been aged for 21 years. And it hasn't been opened. No, I'm going to open it here today and pour a glass. This is, I think, my third bottle that I've owned of this, because the price point on this starts with a 3, and it's three numbers long. So I'll let you all figure out that. But it is one of my favorites, and it's just the flavor on it is fantastic. And so, so I figured I would open it up here today and enjoy that with you. So
this is like very honoring here to open this up and do this right now. Like it's like,
I honestly needed a reason to open it. So
happy to be your reason here to open that guy.
So this is the reason to open it today. So, and here we go. James. Now, here's the thing I love about when it comes to these, when it comes to opening these bottles, because they have a cork in it, is the sound. There you go.
Oh, I don't think it came through. I hope it comes through on the recording, but I did not hear that.
We'll see if it does.
Yeah, we'll see. I get you.
But yeah, no. So there's a lot of good color. The smell on this is fantastic. Oh, it's so good. So.
I'm not like the big passionate bourbon guy. I always say I'm not like mature enough, I feel like, to be to graduate to bourbon. I always go towards I'm still the beer guy, which I have a Who Cooks for You by Jackie O's Brewing down in Athens, Ohio, home of Ohio University down there. A very, very, very nice brewery down there. They make some very good stuff. It's just 5.5% alcohol, and I already poured it in here. Take a sip and enjoy. It's a hazy pale ale type of style, and being 5.5%, it's not gonna kill you, but it's good stuff. Really good stuff. I got to hold my beer brand best I can over here, James. I know you changed the game. I feel like I brought a knife to a gunfight here with what you just opened up.
Well, if I had remembered, and the fault's on me, but I suppose what I should have done is run out earlier today and picked up my favorite beer, and that's Guinness. I mean, I know St. Patrick's Day is around the corner, but I was just in Ireland a couple of weeks ago, and having the Guinness over there is like nothing else. So yeah, but Guinness is my go-to, and St. Patrick's Day is coming up Monday, and I'll be having a few pints.
Oh yeah. Everybody's kind of Irish on March 17th, right? Absolutely.
Everybody's got a little Irish in them. Oh, by the way,
cheers
as we enjoy our drinks, cheers to you. I know we don't anticipate being drunk after the end of this. Where it's just
having a beer,
buzz,
just having
right?
a drink. Yeah.
But have you ever wondered how a computer gets drunk?
Oh no,
they take
James.
screen. How? Well, they take screen shots.
There it is. My
Cheers.
son, I'm taking these home with me, by the way. I'm taking that with
Oh,
me.
please do. Please do. See, and that's the point in the show where if everybody else is listening is having a beer, a brew, a spirit, a cocktail, a glass of wine, every time I tell a dad joke, drink.
Yeah, there's your drinking game for everybody. If Network Buzz needed a drinking game, there you go. Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you joining in on the theme, and thank you for honoring us by opening up that bottle. Jeez, oh man, I do not feel worthy, but thank you for that. But we're here going to dive into some cybersecurity awareness, as James is a cybersecurity advocate, 20 years in the industry experience in cybersecurity education and outreach, and also threat intelligence professor. You have some experience there. So, I mean, there's a lot of wisdom. I'm gonna try to squeeze out of you here best we can in talking through this, and knowing your engineering background too. If you feel like, if you find an opportunity to get technical, our audience is pretty darn technical from what I heard. So please dive in there, and I'll try to keep up best I can. Everyone's seen other episodes where Phil just talks way over my head, or I just try to keep up the entire time, and that's fine. But yeah, we're going to talk about some human risk management. I know that's kind of your bread and butter, and talking about topics and social engineering and phishing and vishing, and really kind of dive into, what the world of cybersecurity kind of has become in this day and age of AI. And I mean, it makes life really difficult. And you get any kind of email from someone you don't know, you're like, okay, well, that's obviously phishing. And that's how training works, to make sure you think twice about that. So thanks so much for joining us and diving in. I mean, what's the most exciting part about your industry right now?
Most exciting part about my industry.
Got you a tough one. We can talk about that one.
No, that's fine. That's fine. No, because my initial reaction, my initial thought is the fact that I'm never going to be out of work. We're always going to need security in some aspect. You think about physical security. We've always needed physical security. And now in the world of cyber and email and the internet and buying things online, and you've got cyber criminals and scammers that are out there. In cybersecurity, we are constantly learning, constantly evolving. I think back, and cybersecurity is one of the young industries, if you think about it, because, think about when you first got your first email address. I know for me, that was back in 1993, I think, 93, maybe 92, when I was at college, University of Central Florida. They gave me an email address.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
I think my parents
AOL. AOL is the one that I had first. Yeah, give me my generational timeline there. Yeah.
Yep. No, remember my parents and I had my first email with AOL. And then it was to an ISP provider, and then it was the university email. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, now I've got 2 email addresses. What am I going to do with myself? And it started with email, and, by the early 2000s, we're starting to deal with malware. I mean, we'd been having it in the 90s, but it still really starts to become prevalent. And it begins that cat and mouse game of a cyber criminal does an attack, and then we got to defend against it. And how do we defend? And then we implement, okay, we got to have these policies and these procedures and these standards and these technologies to be able to defend our organization. And we go from, everyone learning about firewall or antivirus on your computer to now you need a firewall on your network, and people go out and buy a firewall and hook it up and go, woohoo, okay, we're secure. And then they get hacked and they going, but we had a firewall. And my favorite question was always, did you configure it? And they went, did we what? They thought having that firewall plugged in, hey, we're good to go. And that still is happening today. People aren't buying firewalls and plugging them in and getting hacked. They're buying technology without properly configuring it and hooking up and thinking they're secure. Like everybody going, we're moving to the cloud. It's going to be more secure. We're going to be fine. It's going to be a lot better. And they get to the cloud and they get hacked because they weren't securing their data. They weren't securing the infrastructure. They weren't having the right mindset, understanding what they had and how to properly secure it. So in the cybersecurity space, it's constantly changing, constantly evolving. Now we're dealing with AI. Actually, in cybersecurity, we've been dealing with machine learning, artificial intelligence for the last 10 to 15 years. I was doing AI back in my days at Siemens when we would do predictive analysis. We were doing predictive AI with our gas turbine data. So the group that I was a part of we did monitoring of the gas turbines, and we would collect data from the gas turbines, and it would get processed through a piece of software, and it would be trained on models, and those models would be, data relating to sensors, to pressures, whatever.
Sure, sure.
Anything the gas turbine did, we were collecting data on that and analyzing it. And then there were thresholds, there were parameters that it had to stay between, and if it deviated outside of that, we got an alert. That was predictive analysis. So we've been doing
behavioral
AI
analysis, even of a turbine or even of any kind of machinery, let alone a person that's managing it.
Right. And this is all sensor work. Now, the fun thing with that group that I worked in, I did everything from database administration to building applications to helping them set up these computer systems in the field, which were like remote locations. And we had VPN connections. We used to do this. This is how far back we were doing it. I was doing phone lines with these. We were doing modem connections.
Oh, you can hear that sound. You can just hear that sound, can't you?
Yeah. You hear that sound, and it's like, yeah. But then you hear it connect, and it's like, yay, we're on the internet.
It only took 60 seconds. Yeah.
Only took 60 seconds. And now we get upset if it takes 60 seconds to download the video file. So the fun thing was, we were building VPN connections to these sites, and I was relying on our IT team to help me set these up. And we were using these VPN clients. And then we kind of reached the limitation of what they were able to do and what we needed it to do. And so we then switched over to PIX firewalls and Cisco routers and switches. Well, the kicker is they gave me a basic configuration and said, yeah, this will work for you. And then when it didn't, and I would go back to them and they were too busy, and then I would get in trouble for bothering them too much. And rightly so, because I didn't know anything about Cisco iOS and configuring firewalls and routers. It then kind of came to me. So I literally sat myself in the workshop that we had in our Siemens office for about 3 weeks, and pretty well every day went and using Google, looking at configurations, figuring out how to program a Cisco PIX firewall, how to program the Cisco iOS router to do VPN connections, to do NAT translations, NAT traversal, to then have firewalls, access control lists, the ACLs. Literally spent 3 weeks just working my way through all of that, and got at the end of it, had a switch configuration with multi-VLANs, had a Cisco router that built 3 different VPN tunnels, did 3 different NAT traversals, depending on the VPN tunnel, because we had multiple DMZs that we had to connect to, and then handled all the routing and communications. And that was kind of the standard model configuration that they used for the next 10 plus years for this group. The fun thing was, so we were one little department in our service organization, and then there was an overall IT remote group that oversaw our DMZ environment for all these remote connections. Because Siemens not only did gas energy, but there was healthcare and mobile, transportation, and so tons of connections, thousands of connections, and we had 500. They came to us one day, or my boss calls me into his office one day and goes, hey, I just got this bill for like 10,000 euros because they want to charge us because they've got to fix our routers because we're not connecting to the right DMZs. And I said, what are you talking about? And he goes, apparently we're only connecting to one of the 3 DMZs, and we now have to set up secondary and tertiary, but they're going to do it and they're going to charge us 10,000 euros. And I said, nope, because I'm already doing that. And he kind of looked at me funny. I said, yeah, that's how I configured it like 6 months ago. And that group finally came aware of it. And we're like, oh, no, we've got to have backups, and we got to have, and I had already configured it all. And he went back to them and said, nope, we're not paying it because we've already done it. And they're like, oh, no, that's not possible. You couldn't have set that up. And it's like, yep, here's the config. And here it is, dated 6 months ago. So that was kind of my little fun feather in the cap of taking network equipment, servers, configuring them all, getting them all to talk from the server all the way back to our DMZ, back to our data collection server. And I don't know what it was, but there was nothing more exciting than having the lights light up on the VPN connection, telling me that the connection was established and the data was coming through.
Validation of all that work, man.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of one of those, yay, the connection's up. It reminds me of GoldenEye, of the guy going invincible, you
Yeah.
know? So yeah, those were the
Nice.
days.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, hey, it's good to hear those stories because I mean that's how you gotta learn. You gotta roll with the punches sometimes, and you know, as vendors, we try to help everybody best we can, but it's you know sometimes you gotta go to Google University, you know, as a
Oh yeah.
user and just kind of figure things out yourself. And I mean, now you got lab environments to do that, but you were doing that on the job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And it was a whole lot of trial and error. It's like, all right, what does this command do? Nope, that didn't work. All right, what is this command? Okay, and then learn that
Mm-hmm.
command and the different switches and how it. And I was doing all of this, by the way, command line interface. I was doing this in the terminal window.
Wow.
You know, the ASA comes along and it's all in the GUI, and I'm like, yeah, no thanks. And towards the end of my time in that group, I ended up leaving in 2010. And at the end, we were working with the Cisco ASA, the Adaptive Security Appliance, and it was easier to do it in GUI mode than the CLI, to troubleshoot or to fix, or you know, but to configure it, it was a lot easier command line. But when we were doing troubleshooting and tweaking things, once it was loaded, it was sometimes easier in the GUI. But yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm not using the GUI. I'm all about command line.
I
Still
feel
am
like
about terminal these days. So
I feel like the purists of being technologists just live in the CLI. You know, our lead, one of our lead network guys are just like, yeah, I'm going to jump in here and do some magic. And
yep.
he doesn't call it magic. I'll call it magic because he'll do it live in front of somebody. And that's just like a marvel to watch it happen if you have those skills to roll through that stuff. It's something to behold.
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
That was a lot of fun back then.
Yeah, there you go. Love it. So now you're dealing in human risk management. That's kind of your forte now, and its role in just cybersecurity itself, let alone awareness training. So talk to me a little about that. How you got into the human risk factor of all this stuff, developed into that, and kind of where you see all that rolling now. Because you know, all of us, like I said, you get phishing emails left and right. Now the voice phishing or vishing stuff. And like that stuff is wild. I mean, AI is obviously rolling that, and you know, simulating a voice is just incredible. Sometimes you hear those stories, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, for me, getting into cybersecurity came out of being in that department where we were doing networking, and then it was like, oh, you've got to secure the network. So it was network security. And then my boss comes to me and goes, hey, do you know about this NERC SIP compliance, which was the North American Electric Reliability Corporation's critical infrastructure protection standards for securing networks and computers and everything else. And so I got into compliance. And as we get into compliance, we then have our security teams from Siemens come in, and they were saying, all right, well, we're going to do an audit. We're going to do a review of your system. And I said, all right, well, I'll come along with you, because we went to a couple of our customer locations where we had production systems in. And I'm sitting there, and it was a multi-day trip, and we traveled several places in the US. And both the product security officer and the corporate security officer for Siemens was on this trip. And I'm sitting with them one morning towards the end of the business trip, and they turned to me and they said, have you ever thought about getting your CISSP? And I went, my CI what? And this Certified Information System Security Professional certification. And I'm like, and what's that? And they're like, well, it's the gold standard for cybersecurity in the industry. And this is back 2000, late 2007, early 2008. And I'm like, no. And I'm like, ooh, cybersecurity. I had worked in a bank in the 90s and loved the whole fraud investigation security team folks. And I was always felt security people had the best stories. They still do. And so at that point, I'm like, all right. So I start studying for the CISSP, 10 areas of expertise, got to know at least, or be working in and familiar with 3 of them, 5 years experience and so forth. So I sat and took the exam late 2008. And achieved that certification. And for the next year was doing a lot more security work in my group. But then the corporate security officer that I had been working with, she has an opening for a NERC SIP compliance person to come in. So I'm like, hey, I'd love to do that. So I then leave in 2010 and go work in her department. While in her department, I learn about the security awareness training that we're doing for Siemens for North America.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, this is really cool. You know, this is a way for me to help educate people in the organization about, you know, password protections. And this was back early 2010s. But even we were having password vaults. phishing was prevalent back then. We had phishing back then where people would call up and try to socially engineer their way into the organization. So this has been going on for years. This isn't something in the last few years or 10 years. This has been the last 20, 25 years. Social engineering has been going on since Adam and Eve. Which ironically, I don't know if anybody realizes, but Adam and Eve were the first people to have a computer. Yeah, it was an Apple. Problem is, it was low on memory, 1 byte, and the whole thing crashed. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. Oh man.
So I got into security awareness, I got into teaching, and I got into really seeing people get that light bulb moment. My wife is as a school teacher. She's been teaching for 30 years. And I just kind of seeing people get that realization of, oh, I get it. Okay, I see this is how they're doing these attacks and so forth. But we're still seeing the phishing attacks. We're still seeing phishing, the Ishings, the Ishing family. And the crazy thing is now with artificial intelligence, with large language models, with the capabilities that generative AI is doing with audio, you only need like 30 seconds of somebody talking to create a model of them and then generate their voice saying whatever it is that you want. I do in my presentations on deepfakes, I'll take somebody, somebody that's well known among the community of people that I'm presenting to, whether it's their CEO, whether it's a security professional, whether it's somebody's boss, whatever it may be. I'll take their headshot, and as long as I can get a good picture of their face where they're smiling, along with them talking. Now, usually it works a lot better when I've got good quality audio. Them talking out on the street, there's too many other noises and sounds that are in the background. But if I can get them talking on something like a podcast, the audio quality is really good.
Not smiling anymore. Go ahead. Sorry.
Then you take the audio from them talking in a podcast, and all I need is 30 seconds. And I can turn around and generate an image. A lot of the time I end up using a headshot, because headshots, what do people do? They're smiling. So leveraging headshots or pictures of them that I can find that are out there in public, and using 2 different software platforms, both capable of both leveraging AI, generative AI. I can generate the audio and then I generate the video and very easily be able to create a deep fake of them. Now I can do it in real time. There's software that allows, as long as you've got your GPU or your computer's fast enough at processing, you can do real-time voice changing where you give them 30 seconds of audio. The more you can give it, the better it can be trained and the better it'll sound. But it only needs 30 seconds. Input that in, and then I can basically either type out the text I want it to say and it goes, or I can be talking in real time. It translates or converts it to their voice, and then that's what you hear like through a phone call. So that's not science fiction. That's real. Where we're at now, and we're on the cutting edge, is where we've got real-time audio and video of somebody where, I would be on camera, it would change my face or a face swap to whoever I needed to be, and then the audio translating, and then all processed, and then out the door. There might still be a bit of a delay, but it's getting less and less, and it's getting more and more impressive on its capabilities overall. So
it's hard to trust any kind of messaging that you're getting. This stuff,
right?
Look at 30 seconds. I mean, it's quick. Already you can say a lot of things in 30 seconds, but in general, like to get that, most people are trusting initially, and then you get that type of phone call. And so I've heard, I think there was a C-SPAN video I saw of like a lawyer who talked about his son's voice being phishing. So this is not like some random source. This was on C-SPAN, and they're talking about how it was like a life or death situation. Send money now, that kind of stuff. And like, what are you supposed to believe when the voice you hear is your son? It's just wild stuff.
Right. And usually there's a couple things you can do there. And people are experiencing this, everyday people, not just celebrities, politicians, movie stars, whatever. This is happening to everyday people. And if it does happen to you, and if you get a phone call and it's not from a number you recognize, or maybe they're spoofing your kid's number, text your kid, or have maybe a code word, or ask them a question that that they're going to know, that they'll be able to tell you. And it could be something completely random. One of my favorite things to do off the cuff is to go, hey, so what was that awesome dish you cooked the other night?
But even
My
then in the
kid,
moment, you know what I mean?
right,
Like to think of this in the moment and not just be just caught up in whatever happening, whatever conversation, because it's your son or daughter that's
right.
calling. That's wild stuff.
But then the other thing to think, yeah, here's the thing to consider. When you get on an airplane, and I love airplane analogies, when you get on an airplane and you sit down and you're getting ready to leave, what happens? The flight attendants run through all the safety protocols.
Mm-hmm,
Here's how
mm-hmm.
you put on your life vest. Here's how to wrap the cord. Here's where you blow in. You're going to have if we lose pressure, this mask is going to go drop down. You got to put it on before you put it on anybody else's.
Yep.
If the event that, that we lose power, you're going to see emergency lights, notice where your emergency exit is.
Yep.
They're telling you all of that. They don't anticipate that to happen, but they have to prepare for it, and they have to prepare you for it. And if you've never traveled before, you're going to pay attention. If you're somebody that travels frequently, a couple of times a year, you're like, yeah, okay, I know it. But for me, when I'm on the road pretty well almost every week, or at least a couple times a month, when I'm watching them, it's like, yep, okay, this is them preparing me. The same thing goes with regards to these phishing or vishing attacks.
Mm-hmm.
If you talk with your kids or your family members going, hey, look, if I get a phone call from you and I don't think it's you, I'm going to ask you an off the cuff question that you're only going to know. And if whoever's spoofing you can't answer it, then I know it's not you. So it could be a random weird question of, you left your underwear on the floor again yesterday. How many times have I told you about, not doing that?
Talking to be a father of a 6 and a 4-year-old. This kind of stuff happens all the time.
Right. But it could be something as simple as,
kidding.
what was the secret ingredient in the dinner you cooked the other night? We went to Disney the other night. Right.
Yeah.
So getting people prepared is important. With phishing, when it comes to your emails, for me, there are 3 rules. Is it unexpected? Is the person a stranger? Is the ask something that's unusual or in a hurried manner? If I'm answering yes to any of those, I'm going to go through. I'm going to check who it's coming from. I'm going to check the source email address. If there's a link, then I'm going to hover over the link and check that. And if you're not sure, check with an IT person, check with your grandkid, whoever. But check with somebody else that can verify if that link's valid. If it's in your organization, report it. If you're not sure, you're better safe than sorry, and then reporting it. And then if your IT folks or your security person comes back and goes, oh no, this was fine email, then ask them, okay, what was it that, I thought the link was bad. What makes it good? So you can learn from that. Because as humans, we're going to be very emotionally attached to an event, to something that generates a strong emotion. If it's something that scares us, if it's something that worries us, causes stress, if it's something funny, those are the things that you end up remembering. You remember the day your kids are born, the day you get married, the day your kids go to school, they go off to college, they get married, you become grandparents. Those are monumental days that you remember. But then you can remember your first car crash. You can remember your first fight, possibly with a girlfriend, or a big fight that you've had in the family, because those are emotional events. And cyber criminals love to leverage emotional events to get you to click on or react to something. And so when you have one of those, that sticks with you a lot longer. And so, when it comes to these phishing attacks, if you fall victim to it, you're going to remember it, and it's going to be something you don't forget, and you're going to start telling all your friends. And so when it comes to those phishing emails, again, they're going to be looking for some sort of emotional response, looking for you to take a quick reaction. So for me, if I'm not expecting it, if I don't know the person and there's something weird about it, I'm checking out the email. I'm either deleting it if I don't like it. If I don't know the person, then, again, there'll be a process that I go through to review it before I take any action on it.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. Again, and I appreciate layering into top 3 things, like how you approach, an email coming through on what to think about. Cause again, you have to prioritize that. And, when you're shocked by something, even internal email, I mean, we do our KnowBe4 training, we are, not necessarily advocates, but we join the program. So we all go through our own individual training. And so you have to sporadically, not predictably, introduce those situations to everybody. Like, are they going to click on that link? Is there an ACH or a purchase order, like dollars flow to get you to click on something that's, it's a wild ride when you think about it, like all of the opportunities that every human being that works in a company has to just violate that protocol and bring bad agents then into your environment that way.
Anybody that has an email address in your organization
Mm-hmm.
has a key to the front door. They can
Mm-hmm.
open the door and let in the cyber criminals, because for them, why hack the technology, which we know they can do, but it's a lot easier just to hack the human, send in that phishing email. And they have all the same technology. They go out and buy the same tech all the organizations have, because they're going to be trying their phishing emails against that technology, and whatever gets through, they set that aside, and that becomes part of their repertoire, becomes part of their arsenal that they're going to use to try to bypass your technology, to get to your users, to get them to click on the link, open up the attachment, and basically open up that front door, and in they go and connect right away, and they're already downloading malware that may or may not be detected for them to gain access.
Mm-hmm. Just like that. Yeah, it just takes
Just
one.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, there's the ever famous, we got to be right, even if we're right 99% of the time, that 1% is all the cyber criminal needs. True, but it still takes a lot of work for the cyber criminals. It's not easy on their part, because they're sending out hundreds of thousands of phishing emails looking just to get one. And they can spend weeks and months trying to gain access. But once they gain access, they're constantly tapping on that glass,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually they find their way in. But it's a matter of organizations being resilient, going through and making folks aware, keeping them up to date. It's security awareness training is not something like like the Easter Bunny or Santa Claus. It's not something you bring around once a year. This is something that's got to be on a monthly basis. It's got to be like changing out your air filter at home. It's got to be like, I don't know, cutting your grass. It's got to be frequent. And it's got to be frequent. And it doesn't have to be the 45-minute every time. It could be a 5-minute bit, a little training module this month. Next month, it could be a newsletter with a video. The month after that, it could be another video with a module.
Creating that culture. That's what I was going to
Exactly.
finish with as well, because I know. Thank you for getting there. It's just like, it's not just a, oh, by the way, check a box. Some organizations treat it that way, where it's just like checking a insurance compliance box, but in all reality, you're creating a company culture that way.
Exactly. And culture is the key. And that's what human risk management's all about, is empowering people and organizations to be able to understand the different threats, being able to see them, report them, because you're looking at reducing the risk to the organization, because that's what cybersecurity is. And that's why I am never going out of a job, because cybersecurity is about reducing risk. It's not about eliminating risk. It's about reducing risk, because if anybody tells you they can eliminate your risk, they're selling you something. And so, they're always going to be targeting their employees. There's always going to be associated risks with that. So it's all about reducing that risk to be extremely minimal and manageable for you overall. And then tying in with that. And the other thing is, a lot of people think, oh, well, security awareness training or human risk management, that, you can still get hacked. Yeah, you're right. It's not a silver bullet. And a lot of the time, board of directors, people within the organization, decision makers, they will have a tendency to think, okay, so we have security awareness training. We still got, people clicking on links. Well, it's just one piece of the puzzle, one piece of the pie. It's one layer in an onion. We in IT and security for years, we've talked about defense in depth, having multiple levels, and you have your policies, you have your physical perimeter, you've got your electronic perimeter, your internal network, your infrastructure, your individual systems, your applications, your data, your humans. You've got all these layers that you can put all these different protections in, and you need to have all those protections and all those layers there. Your human is that 8th layer, we'll call it. I don't like to say last line of defense. They're just part of your program, but they're an important asset, because if you can educate them, they can be your biggest voice, letting you know about, hey, I saw this phishing email come in, and then it gets alerted, and then your security team can then go, okay, well, look, we see all this. We see the same phishing email in all these other mailboxes. Let's pull that out. And then again, now you're reducing that risk of them clicking on that link. So you pull it out. And because you got one of your users to spot it, not a tool, but your tools allow you to help manage that risk and your employees are there to help identify and reduce your risk as well.
Yeah. I mean, basically just describes the zero trust principles across the board.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this is the human factor of that, which a lot of time is the hardest one to police, if you will, and keeping everybody on par and making sure they understand where all the threats are.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
and you gotta consider a zero trust when it comes to your email, because with the deep fakes, with the social engineering and everything going on, you can't believe everything that comes in off the internet, and you can't believe everything that comes into your inbox.
Yeah, zero trust is not a product; it's a principle, it's a philosophy that
Yep.
you involve. And KnowBe4 have a big role because you address the users, which no one's addressing. The core of their switching infrastructure for a security risk. It's really got to be at the end user at the edge, where all the vulnerability of the internet actually exists. Yep,
definitely,
big time. Cool. Well, this is great. I mean, I think we went a little bit over, and we were worried about our time. Look at that. You were right. You were right, James. What do you know? I appreciate this. This is great. Is there anything else to add here that you want to touch on? I mean, obviously, KnowBe4 is a new, relatively new partner for Laketec, and this strategy of that cybersecurity awareness training for the end user, but it's a vital part of anyone's cybersecurity strategy and zero trust strategy. Excuse me. So I really appreciate you jumping on and being an advocate and and talking to everybody about I like the 1, 2, 3 approach about things to look for when email comes through.
Yep, definitely. And with KnowBe4, we've got the new product Defend that helps with your email, your secure email gateway. We've got the new Ada products that have come out, which are artificial intelligent agents, helping with your policy, helping with your training, helping with assessments. So a lot of great things. Definitely go check it out. But I do want to leave everybody with this thought: is that, does anybody know what social media platform doesn't allow book clubs anymore? That would be Reddit.
Yep.
And of course, I got to give one of my all-time favorites, long-time dad joke that I've had, and that is, what does an air conditioner and a computer have in common?
What's that?
They're both useless when you open Windows.
Nah.
I'm a Mac guy. I already did my Mac joke earlier, but there's my Windows joke just to kind of even it out.
Love it, James. Really appreciate it. Yeah, everybody look up James McQuiggan if you could. He's a big advocate, traveling all over the place. You talked about Ireland a minute ago, going to all the cybersecurity conferences, educating me on all the conferences that are out there with like you said, the coin collection you got in the background there from all of your travels.
All of my travels, yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time with us today. This was good stuff, entertaining. Got some dad jokes in, and again, honored you opening that bottle away. It's good stuff, James. This was awesome. Really appreciate it. Love it.
There you go.
Very good. Well, thanks everybody for joining Network Buzz today. And again, thank you, Mr. McQuiggan, for your time. Really appreciate your inputs and your hilarity. Good stuff, James. Thank you, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.